Okay, I guess we are live on YouTube. Datta, please give me a quick check for YouTube. Guys, stay tuned. We'll start in 2 minutes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ZetaGravit space. Please do share the invites and repost the space and help us, spread the word. It is quite helpful if you guys also get other space enthusiasts to join us this space with Space Rickshaw. Stay tuned, and we will start the space in 2 minutes.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, so let's start. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the seventh edition of XSpace presented by ZetaGravit. I am Parth Pandya, co-founder of ZetaGravit, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this exciting space event. Today, we are honored to host Rifath, co-founder of Space Rickshaw. You may know him as a child genius who wrote his first computer code at very young age and began creating satellites in ninth grade. He achieved feat of creating the world's lightest satellite, that is Kalamsat, weighing just 64 grams, which is less than weight of my smartphone. And to the top of it of, he completed his first mission at age of 16, a time when people like me were playing video games like Minecraft or Pokemon and like whatnot. So today we'll have a fascinating discussion with Rifath and Team Space Rickshaw, covering varieties of topics from their upcoming space missions to practical advice on building satellite as a student. Let's give a warm welcome to Rifath and innovative team at Space Rickshaw. Hello Rifath, how are you?
Hey, hi guys. Good evening. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah, sorry, excuse my voice. I'm having a little bit of cold, but I think I'm clearly audible enough. So happy to be here today.
Thank you, Rifath, for joining. Let's start with SaaS. So, like, what is space as a service? Tell us a bit about SaaS, space as a service, and not software as a service.
Yeah, I mean, space as a service and access to space as a service is not something very new, or it is not something we are doing for the first time. It's been existing in space industry for quite some time. It's just a Gen Z cool term, new space companies are using recently, and we are one of them. So basically, what we are doing is, we are building labs in space, right? Unmanned labs in space where, let's say, you're a biotech company, or you're manufacturing a new kind of solar panel, or you're manufacturing a new chip. You need to get that proven in space, or you need to manufacture something in space. So basically what we are telling is we want to become the AWS of space, where you don't need to worry about building the entire satellite, launching, ground station and everything. Just focus on building your payload, follow standard API documentation for software and hardware integration, launch it and then get the data in your browser. Similar to what AWS has done. Before you need to buy the server, deploy it, do your own network configuration. But now you can just deploy it within seconds. So this is the same thing you want to do in space, so that Artemis is happening. You want to go to Mars. People have to focus on the space applications and creating new stuff in space, instead of just still thinking about building just another rocket or just another satellite. We need to enable people to build stuff in space. So that is our goal. We want to enable people to harness the potential of space.
Very, very interesting, Rifath. I definitely see quite a bit of a potential, but can you just expand on that? Like, what kind of industries, do you see as a focus for these applications? And of course, there has been a lot of space as a service, but the new space economy has definitely been a whole new playground. And I think it's an evolving industry. So how do you see, yourself setting apart Space Rickshaw, as part of this kind of new space economy?
Yeah, so I addressed that there are two questions involved here. The one is like, what are the industries we are focusing on, number one, and what is our advantage, like how we are different from the competitors. And let me address both. So the first part, right, regarding the industry, see, our focus right now is, right. See, of course, for any startup, it is going where the money is, like going where the application is. So where the money is, where where there are a lot of application where people can benefit, that is where the money is. So right now, where the industry is booming is, 10 years ago it was Earth observation, 20 years ago it was geostationary communications. Now it is about what you can do with pharma, what you can do with biotech, chips, and especially we being a lab in space, we want more industries to come in. Maybe we are actually working on a mission where we are shooting an advertisement in space. We will officially announce soon. So regarding the industry, we are like focusing on one side. See, we have two things. One is our spacecraft platform, another one is re-entry capsule. Re-entry capsule will be especially useful for people who want their samples back, like biotech or pharma or material science people, especially for defense. On the another side, quaternary side, on the spacecraft side, any people can use it, like a communication or like uh, chips, microchips and everything. So we don't want to just stick to one industry, like as long as I just made a fun to my friend, like if you are paying for it, we can even send your DNA sample. We are just an enabler in space, again coming there. But our core focus area where we are focusing on our business development is two things. One is on the biotech pharma side, and another one is on the electronics side, where we could really help the next generation of missions, building next generation of spacecrafts, so all those stuff. So that is one thing. Regarding the competitive advantage, it's a very fairly simple deal. So in India, regarding in the spacecraft systems, we have 90% level of vertical integration with Space Rickshaw, which means right from the battery pack to the solar panel, not solar cell, but solar panel manufacturing or onboard communication, onboard computer communication system. These systems we develop in-house. In fact, a lot of the things we do has never been published yet. Soon it will be coming out. We even tested a 40-Newton engine, hybrid engine, a few months ago. So we have a very good vertical integration. We are following what SpaceX has done in the past, so that we can deliver things quickly at a cheaper rate for the customers. So that is first thing. One is a quicker, cheaper, and at the same time, how easy it is for the customers. So they don't need to work with all the complex regulations. We will help them. So those are our computational advantages. It's fairly simple proposition for our customers. Nothing complicated right there.
Quite interesting. I think I hear, the affordability play here. And How do you, tend to look at affordability now? Because I still think launch costs are quite the challenge, right?
No,
Especially
there I
for
actually
this.
differ. The thing is, like, the launch has been the most economical ever been to the, human history. SpaceX, we just
Of
signed
course, of
contracts with
course.
SpaceX. We are working with SpaceX and a few other companies as well. Right now, it's $6,500 per kg. Of course, if you are building smaller satellites, it can go like $50,000, $10,000. It depends upon the mission. But if you are building any spacecraft which is more than 50 kg, it's cheaper, and it's just gonna get cheaper and cheaper when Starship comes, which is gonna come in next couple of years max. Right now, the biggest problem is the launch is cheaper, but other equipments you need to go to space, like the spacecraft bus, ground station, your licensing, all the testing facilities. These are SpaceX has changed the launch industry, but rest of the ecosystem haven't been changed. And with just launch vehicle, you can't go to space, right? You need all the other systems to get your job done. So that is where we want to be the next SpaceX. That is where we want to, dominate the industry. Where with the right launch vehicle, with the cheaper cost, with our cheaper infrastructure in space, people can really utilize the potential of space. So I think that is where the industry is heading. I don't think we don't need any more newer. I don't think anybody else, new startups, could make it any more cheaper than SpaceX. So right now, all our focus should be focusing on applications like what Pixel or the SATSHOR has been doing. And the second is like the spacecrafts, how we can make the spacecraft and the surrounding ecosystem, ground station testing. It's so much more complex. People just talk about rockets because it's sexy, but that is just part of your launch cost. So that is where we need to get the cost down for the space industry to become really accessible to the people.
Definitely, definitely. I think the ground infrastructure costs are where most of the development costs lie, and even the operational costs for satellites is quite expensive. So we definitely need some more disruption. And you've
Yeah,
caught on to the
that is
right
where the
wave, I
automation
think.
is going to come, right? AI is coming, the automation is coming. For the mission operations, right now, our entire mission operation runs automatically. We don't even need a single person to run our ground station. So we essentially remove 10 jobs from, I'm not telling like we never employed them to remote in the first place, but, that is where we are using the automation and AI and everything is coming to place. So what the Agile has done to the software, reducing the human capital and the infrastructure, reusing the resources. So that is where the agile space tech is going to play in the coming days.
Yeah, definitely. I think agile hardware is the way things are moving. And just for our audience, can you give us maybe a little bit of an explanation on the use case when you said pharma, right? Like, why is space the place for pharma to invest in? Let's get a little bit more detail if you can. Explain why microgravity is such a great place to experiment on, and how you see those customers getting that value add in space in your
Yeah,
platform.
sure. I can give you a couple of examples. See, for the pharma, in the microgravity, there is one thing is like the way chemicals react, the crystals work is different. So some companies are trying to work out and trying to find out how new chemicals would form in space, and some people want to, extend their patents, right, by creating new additional to their already existing chemicals. On the other side, people want to see how long-term effect of radiation can cause cancer. There is something called organ on chips. They are studying that. So quite a lot of things is happening, and I'm not really a biotech expert to fully explain, but I know what the customer wants. They want a quick and cheaper access to the not just the microgravity but higher altitudes, because see right now we are quite mature in low earth orbit. We are having continuous presence in low earth orbit for quite some time, and right now the Artemis program and the Elon Musk's dream, we need to go beyond Leo and find a lot of people. So the one thing is, yes, things work very different in microgravity, so people have to figure out for which they need to do a lot of iteration at a lower cost. We enable them to do that. And the second point is not just pharmaceutical, we are also focusing on biotech. In biotech, it is about how you can make better radiation shielding, maybe what kind of diseases you get in long-term exposure to radiation, or what kind of materials you can use to protect it. So we could even potentially help in Artemis program or other, people developing nations to get into part of this. And also a lot of other companies are trying to reduce the cost of space exploration as well. For example, I know companies who are developing new solar panels, new materials. So for all this, right now, the qualification timing is from building to launching and proving is like years, 3 to 4 years. That is, in space industry, the more time you spend, the more money you spend. You know what happened to SLS and cost plus contracts. So we help them to save the money. At the same time, once they become, production ready, they already have the enough awareness of how to work with our spacecraft systems. So we will be doing dedicated missions for those people as well. So these are the things. A lot of things are happening. For common man to understand why even we need this, it's quite hard. But once you get into the industry, it's just very crystal clear that why you need all these things.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get a little bit deeper into, your current, let's say, mission. I think you're working on a deployer, right? The DeployerX.
Yeah.
And so can you just give us a little bit of the details on what you are, targeting with this mission, how you see this as, your potential demonstration, and what I think it's being launched on the SSLV, right? So how you see this both as, I think, a win for the small satellite as well as the small launcher that ISRO has. I think this is the third launch, right, at the SSLV. So what are the challenges that you see with, these kind of launchers, and what is, your deployer mission? Can you just get into some of the
Yeah,
details?
people know me for my role as CTO at Space Kids. We've been working in Space Rickshaw for quite some time in the back for a couple of years. And last January, we launched this startup Space Rickshaw where we are building unmanned labs in space. So this is going to be the first mission of Space Rickshaw called SR-0. And we have like 7 more missions scheduled for this year, like the next 12 months. So the deployer is a key part, and this is one of the important. Like we have a lot of subsystem, and this is one of the key systems. We are proving to reduce our internal costing, launch costing, and also dependency upon the external players. So SR-0, it's a pin-based separation system. Usually, when you're going for CubeSats, they are containerized, and they are containerized because initially CubeSats were used for educational and experimental missions. But later, because of the standard, people just get stuck to that. So if you want to launch a 3 kg CubeSat, the deployer itself is another 2 to 2.5 kg or even 3 kg as worst case scenario. So for 3 kg, I have to pay for 6 kg to the launch contract, launch service provider. And these deployers are also quite expensive to buy from Europe or even from India. Or we have even used ISRO's deployer in the past. So it's expensive. The deployer itself is expensive, and launching them on the launch vehicle, doubles our cost, and waiting time is high. And with the type of cadence we are working with, like accommodating all the customers, we can't wait, and we need better margins. So that's why we went on and developed. This is just the first version. We are supporting up to 3 kg, 3.5 kg in this, and we are extending it all the way up to 50 kg, in the coming days. So right now, this is one of the world's lightest deployer for CubeSats. It's just 350 grams for launching a 3.5 kg payload. That is quite substantial, and we got our own launch sequencer as well, deployment sequencer as well. And it's going to be game changing for us in terms of providing competitive prices to our customers because of all the cost savings. And it's also quite innovative. Like I can't reveal a lot of things, but a lot of development has been happening. ISRO is really appreciating, even from the foreign customers also. Even Israel has adopted a deployer for one of their launches. So it's going amazing. The launch is happening. So SSLV D3 is, SSLV is close to my heart because we were on board all the SSLV launches so far, D1, D2, D3. So it's like a very cute vehicle. I spent a lot of time with it. So for those reasons, I really like SSLV. SSLV team is amazing to work with, very quite supportive. So we are happy to work with it. But in terms of future for SSLV or any type of small sat launch vehicles being developed in India and around the world, I'm quite skeptical of it unless and until they go for at least like 2003 kg, 3000 kg scale, because we have seen what Somnath sir has recently quoted, and SpaceX is just killing the pricing market. Okay, on-demand launch is great, but who needs on-demand launch? Only the military and other, people who need immediate launch. For me, okay, I will even wait 6 months to launch 3, 4 satellites together. So people may not agree with this because already so much money has been invested into small sat launch vehicle sector. And we are openly seeing the effect in all the professional space forums as well. So I'm quite skeptical of the future. Okay, it will be survivable. Maybe 2, 3 players could survive, but how big they can make it is really a questionable term here. And the proof is also, every small set player like Electron, Relativity, they have, Relativity has stopped and going towards a bigger launch vehicle. Electron is doing the same. So we have to understand and accept where the industry is heading. That is one thing. So I think the future will be dominated by medium and heavy lift launch vehicle with few small sat launch vehicle. But for me, I would like to see big launchers with affordable cost than the very small launch vehicles charging hundreds of thousands of dollars per kg.
Yeah, that's quite a interesting take, I would say.
Actually, this is not my take. This is the industry's take. You can go to any professional space forum internally, and you can ask the question, and you would get the same answer.
Yeah, definitely. I think Starship and Falcon have definitely skewed the market. And this is kind of my next question, where, what are the kind of risks involved with rideshare, right? So you are saying I'm willing to wait 6 months, 1 year, but of course, you have to wait for the slots, the launch slots. So how do you, when you say you're doing space as a service, how do you see these kind of risks associated with coordinating and bunching together maybe a bunch of different payloads or platforms and working with maybe different launch providers?
See, I personally feel this, immediate launch requirement, it is like selling FOMO, fear of missing out, or selling the panic. Any proper space mission, any company would have all their missions very advancedly planned out at least for a year. So my goal is to provide, if say 6 launches per year, I would book all the 6 launches 2 years in advance with SpaceX. And even if I want to launch right now, there is always, even for rideshare, in the end, there is something called end of season sale kind of things are there, where you can go and book last minute launch slots. And right now, the standard waiting time is around a year or two for getting bigger payloads on SpaceX. But that cadence is being vastly improved, especially when players like Relativity are going to come in. You are going to, like, within 6 months, you can go and book a launch. That's not going to be a very big issue. What small satellites telling we can launch within a week or launch within a day, it is mostly suitable for defense applications, where a foreign enemy has attacked your asset and you need to get a new asset into space. But in that case, I'm not telling the small sat launcher industry itself is gonna fade. They are gonna have some market share, but it's not gonna be as big as it's being sold and investors are thinking. And the second point is clearly not looking at how many players are there in the market internationally. There is not that much demand is there in the market. So that is the second thing I wanted to address. I'm not telling the market is going to fully fade away, but it's going to be a very small market. For rest of the people, nobody, I don't think Pixel or Planet Labs is going to say like, even they are a small sat player, or even Maxar is going to say, oh my God, I need to get a satellite to low Earth orbit, which is 2000 kg in 3 months. You can't even get ITU filed in 3 months unless you are a government organization. So that is my view. Right now, the cadence is an issue, but it's already being solved. We are getting a very good cadence recently. So that is where the future is going to be. Military will be playing a role, but again in India, the thing we feel is right. We are already having SSLV, and defense is developing their own launch vehicle, and all the small sat launches US is getting. So it's like a complicated relationship and situationship we are in. So we just need to wait and see how the market is gonna improve. Regarding the sky route, if you look at their things, right, in the back they are developing the cryogenic engines, and their launch vehicle is rated at 500 kg, and they have a very good strategy. I think all the players, will be soon moving towards 3000, 4000 class vehicle, which is apparent because even in the January, you have seen Agnikul making an announcement moving from a 100 kg launch vehicle to a 300 kg launch vehicle. So it's just apparent, and it will be happening.
Quite so, quite so. I think a lot of it is also driven by the demand, and part of it, I think, is just the market maturing. I think a lot of people started out small, but as they've been able to prove their technology like Electron, I think they're definitely looking to scale it up. And definitely, I'm looking forward to see where all this lies in maybe, 10 years' time. So, uh, can you probably give us some sort of overview on how your experience at Space Kids, before Space Rickshaw kind of helped you and inspired you and gave you kind of a lot of different experience? Because I think you've had the opportunity to do suborbital missions and a few orbital missions. So, how has that experience kind of brought about, Space Rickshaw where it is today? And how was your experience working with Space Kids?
I mean, Space Kids is one of the amazing thing ever happened to me in life. Let me tell you why. First of all, Space Kids India is where all the outcast people like Sheldon comes in, right? All the best minds. So right now, the team I'm having, the entire team, the core team was formed at Space Kids. So it helped me to get one of the best team, the best engineers in India with me. That is amazing. And Dr. Kasan has spent a substantial amount of effort and funding in getting our initial R&D and everything ready. So that is an amazing thing. We got the great team, we got the great people, and what most people do with pre-seed funding, having an idea, going to the investor, raising their first fund, and then building. We have done it 5 years ago, and that is apparent. All our investors are telling the same. We are comparatively in the market. We are a very less risky investment because of our added advantages, because we know how space works. We got shit done, right? So that is one advantage. I'm forever thankful for Space Kids, and even the Space Kids will continue to exist, and a part of our philanthropic activity will go towards SpaceX, Space Kids, to promote the next generation of scientists. So the companies like Space Rickshaw, more companies like Space Rickshaw can come in the future. So I'm forever grateful to Space Kids India for that. Some of the things like for us to crack or some of our first investment, the industry average is like you talk to 250 investors or 200 investors or like that. A lot announcements are yet to come. It's still private, but for us it only took like around 12 to 13 investors, because the knowledge of like where to even go, how space works, we already have. So I think in future, Space Kids itself will act like an accelerator or an incubator for students who are interested in space sector to get hands-on knowledge, while people like us go on to create the next generation of space companies. So yeah, it was an amazing experience. I spent 10 years of my life there, and learned a lot. So forever thankful for that.
That sounds amazing. I think that's definitely a step forward for, the Indian science enthusiasts and space enthusiasts,
Mhm.
because having these, I think, is not something that has um, been mainstream yet. I definitely want more of Space Kids, across India. I want more students who can tinker and learn, and for sure. So this is kind of a different topic, but we have heard of open source software, right? So with kind of Libra space. I've seen this
Mhm.
idea of, open source space
Yeah.
exploration, right? How people can come together and work on common standards and learn and, contribute. So I think I also saw that you had posted about this particular mission of yours on the, Libra space community. So have you been part of Libra space? How have you kind of seen that mission of, open source space exploration? And how do you think that will contribute in the future to, something like Space Kids
Yeah.
or even
Yeah,
beyond,
yeah,
maybe?
that's a great question. I'm a very big advocate of open source. Uh, See, regarding Cyberspace Foundation, they are doing an amazing job, and they operate SatNods, one of the open source ground station. The reason why we posted about SR-0 is because people around, we have an amateur radio payload on board, and people love to take use of amateur radio satellites. So that is the reason we gave the orbital parameters there, so that ham community around the world can make use of it. That is point number one. And regarding the open source, space exploration, in terms of education, right, where people need to learn about all these things. Two things. Let me be honest. Like I usually give honest opinions outside. Two things. The one is, educational institutions. It would be an amazing stuff when the open source things comes up. There are already quite a bit of example of open source satellites out there, but just people need to have already enough experience to even understand it. For example, $50 sat, LiberSat, ORSAT. These are some of the good examples of open source satellite. PyTube, which is a recent one. These are some good examples of it, but taking them and using directly won't be, possible. So I'm a very big advocate for that and appreciate it. And the second thing is commercial companies like us, Planet Labs. Recently, some time ago, Planet Labs has made one of their S band and X band transponder open source. So sometimes, even though we are commercial companies, we do such stuff. There are two reasons for that. The one is, of course, we, when we were kids, we used a lot of open source softwares and hardwares. We learned from that. So we want to give back to the community. So whatever which is not very critical to the commercial part of the organization, we are happy to make that open source for the industry and especially the budding people. Because if 10 years ago I didn't had all the tools I had with me, I would have never been here. So it's very important to give back. So companies like us should contribute a part of it to the open source and giving students also the opportunity to that. And the second one is open source itself is a big money maker. Even in the software, you see a lot of companies. For example, there is a MongoDB, I guess, MongoDB and few other database and other things. They are essentially, open source, but they will charge premium for that. So basically, you initially will attract the people, you will make people aware of your product, and then out of which people will come and buy your product, pay a premium because it's so good. So in terms of marketing and business, also open source is a great platform, and it is not something new which has been followed in space. I mean, software sector for decades. So it's amazing. It's a win-win for both parties.
Definitely. And I think they have done a great job advocating for it. I definitely, hope to see more people in India become
But
aware of
one
these
thing
kind
here
of
I want to
initiatives.
address is like people should not see
Go.
if you are okay, open source is great and amazing, but people who work on proprietary technologies and people who work on capitalism, they should not be evilized. Sometimes, people think like, like what SpaceX, the competition, the industry dominance is something evil, but that is not a healthy way. A healthy capitalism is very important. Without that, the real growth cannot happen. So we should have a right, like Thanos has said, we should maintain a right balance between both.
Quite much so. The alien from space talking about balance in the universe. Well said, well said. I think SpaceX is definitely quite dominant, but they have done quite a bit of work to get there. I think that's what makes them so powerful in their position, right? I think people don't understand the amount of efforts that go sometimes in qualifying hardware, keeping it reliable, and performing every time they shoot. Like, I think space is hard. Space is definitely hard, but the learning curve definitely means that as time passes, it does get easier because you have the knowledge. And I think that's what I want, people to understand. Definitely, it's hard, but the more time you spend with it, the more you learn and the more easier it gets. But of course, there are always, risks involved. So here is maybe a complex question for you. So when you talk about space as a service, what is your perspective on sustainability of space overall?
Sustainability in terms of economy or sustainability in terms of materials and economy, or in the whole you're asking?
Space sustainability in terms of orbital capacity, right? Because now you are saying you are enabling, let's say, as you said, I'm going to put an ad out in space, right? So there is definitely something about the end of life strategy for something like that. Like, is it just something that's floating up there as an ad? Are you planning to deorbit it? What is your idea on sustainability when you enable these kind of services on your platform, right? You did mention you're working on re-entry capsules and things like that, but there is always some level of debris involved in putting anything up there. So that is kind of what I'm trying to talk about in terms of space sustainability.
Yeah, to give you the answer, we try to be fully in compliance with ODAR. ODAR is a, it's an orbital debris assessment review. It's a compliance standard out there. Uh, See, we try to deorbit all our missions. For example, all the spacecrafts in the last 4 years we launched in low Earth orbit, they have been naturally decayed because of the lower orbital altitude we are in. So we try to make sure we are not adding any debris to that. And right now, India, working with ISRO for quite some time, I can clearly vouch that ISRO is taking space debris concern very seriously. In every mission readiness review, we have separate section addressing the end of life and disposal plans, whether batteries will explode or fuel might, the fuel tank might explode. What are the contingency plans and everything? So Asian Space and ISRO is taking those things very seriously. And as the users of space, we are also very responsible about, for example, the deployer we are making. We are very sure not even a single debris event or like small materials like from the HDRM or springs are being released. So we are very sure about this is 100%. We are not creating any external debris from what is the satellite and the deployer. So it's very important for all the companies to think of that, because in the lower orbit especially it's getting really crowded. We need to responsibly deorbit everything. So that is why we are focusing on. And we are not going to launch like thousands of spacecrafts like Starlink is doing, where the re-entry itself is. You might have seen the news that aluminum oxide is causing some problem with the ozone. So we need to also focus on in term if we are going for such large scale of satellites, what kind of materials are going in. So that is also we need to take care. And I also think people will be soon moving towards higher orbits, 800 kilometers, 2000 kilometers, and everything. It's such a pain in the ass to maintain that large amount of satellites, like 1500 or 6000 satellites. The operational capacity is very high. Your capex needed to operate such fleet is very high. Right now, for Earth observation, you need to be close to the Earth, and for communication it is the latency. But once we are looking at companies developing laser terminals and other things where latency can be reduced, and the RF technology is also like, we need to see how we can, even with the higher altitudes, we can reduce the latency. So those are the research is going to happen. So I think if we just keep, every country is going to compete like who puts the largest amount of mass into orbit, that is going to become very disastrous. Rather, I would. There are a few companies like K2 Space. They are developing extremely, large satellites, like how nano satellites used to be there. They are developing larger satellites because with Starship kind of thing, you can develop satellites which you could never launch before. So I think that is where the future will be, where you'll be, instead of having like a lot of satellites, you can go to high Earth orbit and reduce the number of satellites at any given time. Maybe you can launch one after another, and just make sure we are not crowding it too much. Yeah, of course, space is very big. It's not as crowded as we think, but the debris generation event can lead to disaster. So as long as FAA, FCC, and sir, everybody is putting a lot of effort to come up with the guidelines. As long as the private companies are sticking with the guidelines, we should be doing pretty much fine.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I appreciate your answer. And my final question before I hand the mic back to Parth is, what are your plans for the deep space, right? I heard you go higher and higher. So you were talking about, going to the moon and Mars. So can you give us maybe a sneak peek into, what your vision is in terms of deep space exploration?
See, again, it's just a natural evolution, right? Like 50, 60 years ago, it was a dream to go to low Earth orbit, and now people are coming up with a lot of application to make use of it. So naturally, deep space, lunar, these things are going to get quite common. So that is where the next generation of space companies could add a lot of value. We develop our buses with a Lego-like architecture where it can be, multi-purpose. So we are doing some deep space missions to qualify our hardware for deep space applications, so the customers can make use of it. I can't give the exact info, but we are right now targeting a lunar demo mission by end of next year or early 2026. That would be qualification mission to prove that our buses are quite well capable of carrying out a lunar mission or any high Earth orbit mission where you need to handle Van Allen belts and everything. And for developing countries like UAE and Singapore, if they want to do a Mars mission, maybe in next 3-4 years, who knows? Maybe in the next Mars launch slot, we might be delivering a payload for somebody. Who knows? So we are focusing there. We are just making sure all our hardwares are not just designed for low Earth orbit, but with with low enough modifications, it can do well in deep space. So it's going to be very exciting, especially I'm excited about Artemis and what will be happening in next decade. So yeah, that is where the next exciting stuff is going to be.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds quite exciting. And I can't wait to see, when the lunar economy is normalized. Like it's unfathomable to, even 10 years ago. But I think SpaceX has truly, changed the game in terms of what is possible and what is going to be possible in the next decade. So, yeah, Parth, you can take on the final few questions.
Yeah, thank you for Phantom. So, like before moving to the next set of questions, thank you to all our live audiences who have joined us today. Really means a lot, guys. Thank you. So, like Rifat, as you said, in India, there is problem with talent when it's come to the space domain. So, like, what do you think? Like, what should a student do to pursue all this? Like, apart from that CanSat and rocketry competition, like InSpace has done really nice job by organizing these competitions, but how can we like move beyond CanSat program and rocketry program, and how can we utilize weather balloon concept that you have done at age of 16, 15, sorry.
Yeah, that's a good question. The one thing I would like to make something clear here is India has no shortage for talents. India is right now the best place to create any deep tech company or any tech company because we are producing world-class engineers. You just need to pay them enough to get into your company. If you are paying them very less comparing to what a software company or a software startup can pay, then of course they will go there. So if your business strategy is not solid and you want top talent engineers to come work for you just because you're working in space, that doesn't happen. Space is no longer something which people look like, okay, because of this it's amazing space, I'm going to work. No, people need to pay their bills. People need to. Inflation is, even I want to work in space if it is not profitable, right? Inflation is coming, and people have to live. So the companies has to come up with the right strategy to pay the talent well and retain them. Right now, that is a big problem I'm seeing in Indian space sector. Instead of hiring 4 subpar engineers at lower cost, I would hire 1 talented engineer at a higher cost. I'll be very happy with them. So that is not at all. That is more than enough talented engineers in India. See, but in terms of skill labor and in terms of the number of people required, not just space sector, every industry is facing challenge. I work a lot with hardware manufacturing startups and even well mature companies. Right now, the real skill is at scarcity, right? Most of the tier 2, tier 3 colleges are not generating well qualified engineers. They are just generating engineering graduates. They are not having any experience of engineering. So I'm really worried about that, and the government of India has to take actions in terms of making the regulations stringent so that we can produce quality engineers. So that applies for every industry. But the beautiful space industry is we charge our customers a lot. I'm just every company, like comparing to other people, other industry space systems, they make, like the costs are high. So space sector is well equipped enough to pay employees decent salary so they can attract good talents. Even right now for the Planet Lab, there was a recent report that, each software engineer they were costing more to the company than what they were making, what they were generating revenue. So that is one problem. That is mainly because of things like AI and other, hot technologies. They are coming in and paying a lot of money because they are having the customers there, so they can afford. That is where the space sector is struggling. But I've heard companies like Skyroot and Pixel, and we are hoping to be there, are doing really decently well in terms of retaining employees and attracting great talents. So we don't need to worry much about that. But for your question, for overall how people can get better, I would strongly recommend people in first year and second year of the college to go and just do stuff, go and build stuff, write research papers, build stuff and launch with high altitude balloons are a very cheaper way to go. Participate, just be curious, just always be hunger to do something. Don't just study and at the 4th year or 3rd year be like, how should I prepare for interview? It should be like you have done so much by the 4th year, people will be competing to hire you. So it is all about your personal efforts, and my team has been so far great like that, right? We have a lot of people here, they're doing just amazing. We all come from typical Indian background. I come from a very small village, 500 kilometers away from Chennai. None of our teammates studied in some top university or school, but still, right now, even people from ISRO and NASA, they appreciate our technical capabilities because of the effort we have put in so far. So I think that is where students should focus on. Yeah, have fun. I love to have fun. I still have a lot of fun, but still use your time. Your college is the best years. Those 4 years are the best years for yourself to upskill. Go do some hard shit. For example, your final year project could be anything. But my final year project in masters, I done it under Dr. Malsami Anadurai sir, who is the project director of Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan. I could have went for settle for a small project, and I don't need to put that much effort and take pressure. But that one project has helped me to get into PhD in Israel, and then that has helped me to get other people and finally build a startup. So whatever is the most toughest, hardest thing, do those things in your college years. It will pay you back once you graduate.
I agree. Like money is the ultimate motivation for all the students. But and like I am in just that same age group. Like I'm in university, so I understand. Like people of first and second year are not that enthusiastic about not just space, but not in any field. Like they start in third year and all. So, like, how can we strengthen the industry academia relationship and especially space domain so that we can like inspire a new generation space scientists in India?
See, it's a long topic. We discuss this quite a lot in internal space forums. A lot has to happen, but right now it's great that URSC has done a rover challenge in space trying to do the CANSAT and rocketry competition. We had nothing and now we have something, and I hope it's going to just get better and better. And so, in terms of that, it's fine. And students also has to, focus on themselves. If it may sound cliche, but at the end, from my personal journey, if you're not going to put effort, then nobody is going to come and save you. So you have to realize that. And also, the other problem is just being interested and being passionate about space is not enough. Yes, launching satellite is sexy. Watching rocket and talking about the history is sexy. But can you get your hands dirty and go build an onboard computer or program it? Necessarily, you don't need to even build a satellite to understand programming onboard computers. You can, learn about robotics, and I can easily train you to get into space sector within a week. So people just have to acquire actual engineering skills, not just talking about it, trying to copy what is in Google. But from young age, you should acquire a taste for difficult engineering. See, at the end, there is nothing wrong in being interested about money. If there is a guy, if I see a second year engineering guy who tells money is important to him, I would be the first one to appreciate him because I was like that. So just being interested in money is not enough. You should acquire the skills so that you can realize how you can get the money. So I would say he should acquire enough skills so that he can go and get the money. Of course, see, if a student is, first of all, I'm very envious of these companies offering these paid internships, man. They, students paying companies to do internships. Just having aerospace in your company name doesn't make you an aerospace company. And I am very sad, sometimes people apply for job here and in their application, I've done so and so aerospace engineer. I'm like, dude, it's not even a real project. So we should make community like ZetaGravit, Garib Scientist, Rocket Gyan, who's my close friend. We should talk more often. We are already doing that. I'm really great. We should talk more about all this so people are aware. See, in Space Rickshaw, even if you're a first year or second year student and you're really talented and selected for internship here, we will pay you from the day one. We won't ask you to pay the money. Instead, we will pay you because at the end, everybody's time is valuable to them, and it might be a smaller amount, but we need to pay for them. So there is nothing wrong in being interested in money. So we just need to make students aware of what is the real deal, what is not the real deal, where they should focus. And it's great what Indian space community is doing so far. I think we are one of the most active space communities around the world. We just need to get more serious and make awareness about all this. And even I will be happy once we get required fundings and we are able to get all the missions going on. I will be happy to host such events, sponsor such events, and even carry students' payloads. Because when I was there, what Space Kids India has done to me, I would love to do 10x more to the community there.
That's really appreciate. So, like, as far as I understand, student needs to get their hands dirty. They need that maker's mentality. Like, enthusiasm is not only a key, but you also need to have a hands-on experience on various engineering problems. So, like, let's move to the next question. That is, I always wondered what is procedure to launch a satellite from NSIL?
Difficult question in the entire talk, I would say. See, it is simple. Actually, you just write an email saying, I have a satellite. This is the interface. This is a mass, and I want to launch. And technically, they should reply with, this is the pricing. And then, if you're an Indian company, you should go to InSpace website and apply for launch authorization. They will send you a bunch of forms. You'll fill it up, get the authorization, then pay the money to NSIL, sign a launch service agreement, do all the testing, of course, build the satellite, and integrate and launch it. So it's actually simple, but it's right now the transition period is going on, and Indian Space Committee is doing amazing. NSIL and InSpace has been really supportive, but it's kind of little bit difficult because so many different parties are involved. There is a transition phase, so things might be sometimes a little bit slow. For example, for companies like us, we won't get access to launch manifest right now at this point. For example, I have access to entire SpaceX manifest, but I don't have the manifest of ISRO. So we don't know how to schedule and where to put my launch, how to, especially for a company like me, which are handling third-party customers. It's a really difficult situation. But right now, I have to be completely understand that both INSIL and InSpace has been putting honest efforts, and it's far, far better than what it's supposed to be like 3-4 years ago. And from here only things are going to get better. So I don't want to be in a criticizing position. Rather, I would like to be in a supporting position. In fact, we've been telling InSpace and INSIL about how things can be improved, what we are expecting. ISPA, Indian Space Association, also has been doing a great job there. So see, as a startup, we are growing. As India is entering the commercial space sector, the agencies are also growing. So it's time to be supportive to each other, so the ecosystem can collectively become mature and get a good chunk of share from the international market.
Indeed, collaboration is a key here. So, like, since there's lots of hype around AI, and like we know that we use AI in space, like use of AI in space is very common.
More money in the next round. I'm just being openly honest. Okay, but in terms of the logics of launch vehicles, satellites, these are simple automations. They are not actually artificial intelligence. It's that him and me. If you open the mask, it is like it feels logic inside. But coming to the actual applications of AI, edge computing, processing your data, in space, predicting the collision of space, and finding new asteroids and processing the data. I think AI is going to be more useful in analyzing the tons of data we generate from space, and using right now, for example, to give you, like in SR-2 we are working on, we are using a small image, a machine learning algorithm for some of our camera operations so that it can be more efficient. And we are also launching and qualifying an edge computer so that our customers can make use of it to compress their data and optimize their data and decide what data to downlink and what data not to downlink. So right now that's happening from our side. And AI is going to be very helpful on the ground, processing the data coming from the spacecrafts rather than how the spacecraft itself is going to use AI. We haven't seen the robotics, humanoids and non-humanoids to make use of AI yet. First, they have to adopt AI before other more complicated industries like space sector and defense could adopt AI. We still work on microcontrollers which run at 100 megahertz, and we have a slogan here telling that each gram, each kilobyte, and each milliampere matters, because in space sector we are not doing gaming or something. Our logics are very simple but complex. Our computer requirements are fairly simple. So in terms of AI, processing data is where it's going to be very useful in the coming days.
Thank you for your insights on AI. So I guess we are done with our questions. Now we'll take some questions from audience side. So like if you have any questions, please send us a request to speak, or like you can also comment your question down in the comment box on both, like YouTube also work and X also work. So the first question from audience is how to join Space Rickshaw. What qualifications should I have from Space Bro?
See, right now, just be a great engineer, work on some really great project, and send your GitHub repository to me in Twitter. And if there's a good fit, I might even be interested in hiring. So we are a startup, and we work on a very lean architecture, which means we hire very low amount of high talented, highly capable people. So you have to meet that criteria to get into Space Rickshaw. So just be a great engineer with a lot of great skills. You can get in. Simple as that.
I'm sure there will be such a talented people from like our community. So thank you for answering. I guess we don't have any more questions.
Great.
So really, thank you, Rifath, for your time. Thank you to each and every one of you who joined and make this space possible. We Team ZetaGravit wishes Team Space Rickshaw all the very best for your upcoming launch and for your future missions also. We look forward to collaborate more in future. So thank you for joining.
And I'd like to wish you guys all the best for that upcoming balloons that you guys are planning. That's great. Wishing you all the best. And really sorry about my voice. I've been speaking a lot in last week and I really lost my voice. This is not my actual voice. It's much better. Thank you for sparing that. Wishing you all the best. Great evening. Have a great day ahead in the coming days. See you guys soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Rifath. I mean, even with your voice hoarse, you took the time out. Really massive thanks. See you guys next.